More about all of this right now, the multi-trillion-dollar spending package and how the government would pay for it, and maybe a little Bitcoin, too. Joining us right now is Anthony Scaramucci, founder and co-managing partner of Skybridge Capital, of course, a CNBC contributor. I want to get to Bitcoin because we are seeing a little bit of a sell-off. I also want to get to this news with Coinbase and everything else, but I do want to talk about what's happening in Washington and what you think is eventually going to happen with this infrastructure plan, $3.5 trillion. Mr. Manchin saying that about what does he say, about $1 trillion or 1.5 trillion he might be willing to go along with. What do you think?
Well, I think the first question is, can they or can they not pay for it, Andrew? And they obviously cannot pay for it. And so what are they going to do? They're going to borrow the money, and then that's the largest experiment in our lifetimes, this modern monetary theory. So do I think it happens? I do think it happens. It may not be the $3.5 trillion. I do, yeah. It may not be exactly $3.5 trillion, but I bet you that it's got a two handle, sort of $2.5 trillion. I do think they get something done like that. I think they all recognize going into the midterm elections that they got to put something on the table for the American people. But again, they can't really pay for it. And you've got the tax code totally screwed up right now. And at some point, Andrew, and Joe's really not going to like this. I personally don't like it, but you're going to end up with a VAT in the United States because you've got such large black market activity now. And you've got so many people with the low personnel numbers at the IRS. You've got a lot of people that are evading taxes. That's one of the ways to capture those people is through a value-added tax. I do think they get it done.
Anthony, yeah. I was actually thinking after, sad to say, I was home thinking about the conversation I had with Andrew yesterday. I just realized that. So I was thinking about
Is that the eighth day of the week, Joe? Was that the eighth day of the week?
Anyway, trying to think of how do we get at the trillionaires, and there aren't quite trillionaires yet. You're not a trillionaire yet, are you, Anthony? You're close, but
I am a trillionaire, but it's only in Zimbabwe, Joe.
Yeah,
that's the only place I'm a trillionaire.
If these guys, instead of the wealth tax, what about some type of like you're saying, some type of consumption thing? If they can't spend their money, then they're real. If they can't buy the big mega yachts, so why can't we do it that way? Unless they just sit there in a small house, do it that way. Why can't we do it when they consume ravenously like billionaires are likely to do? Why can't we do it that way instead of a wealth tax?
Well, listen, the millennials don't remember Ronald Reagan, but you and I remember him. He didn't want a value-added tax because he thought it would corrupt the consumption, and he thought it was unfair. He thought it was regressive because everybody's paying it, including the poor people. But I do think it's a necessary thing at this point, and it more or less works in Europe in terms of capturing a lot of the black market activity that's happening in the United States right now. So I do think it's going to happen, Joe. There are some regressive elements to it that I don't like.
Might be able to deal with those.
Anthony, how does it get done? How does it get done if Dems are in charge? Because they're going to make the argument about the regressiveness of that.
Well, I think what Joe's saying is that they'll offer some kind of credit or subsidy to lower income people that will capture back whatever the value added transfer is, and so this way it just nails the people at the upper end of the scale. And it's sort of the same thing they could do with these IRAs. Right. You could prevent people from turning a penny into $5 billion by just saying, hey, over $1 million.
Are you hearing real traction though on the VAT idea, or is that something that you're now spending time on?
Well, like Joe, I'm looking at it saying this is, if you look at a Venn diagram, this is probability statistics. This is likely to happen. Are people looking at it? I don't have any insight there, but I just know intuitively that that's a direction that we will likely go in.
Okay, let's pivot in another direction, which is what's going on with crypto right now. You saw El Salvador make its play. You've also seen what's happening in the broader stock market and what's happening in terms of how that seems to be hitting crypto, at least over the past, let's say, 24, 48 hours.
Well, listen, anybody that tells you that they know, they're fibbing to you because they actually don't know. But being on Wall Street for 33 years and looking at trading patterns and cycles, it felt like it was peaking as a result of the El Salvador news. There was a lot of leverage in the system, and a lot of leverage blew out of the system over the last 48 hours. Having said that, the demand and the fundamentals for things like Bitcoin continue to improve. every day you hear news stories, Andrew, about more wallets, more activity, more potentiality of an ETF, at least the Bitcoin futures ETF. And so I'm still quite optimistic for year end.